Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to learn about parametric functions. This first exercise is about an introduction to parametric functions. Some of these things that we see today, they should look familiar because we saw them when we were exploring polar functions. But as a reminder, with polar functions we were using polar coordinates, but for parametric functions we're back to using Cartesian coordinates. So when you see something that says 2, 4, that's saying that the point is at 2 units in the x direction and 4 units in the y direction. When we're dealing with standard functions, y is equal to f of x, we move x, and as we change x, the y value is determined as a function of x. To get a little bit technical, what we're saying here is that x is independent. It's allowed to move independently, and that y is dependent on what x is. So here we have a chart. We have an input variable, an independent variable, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. I've called it z for now. I could call it x, but I'm calling it z because we're going to do something different shortly. So we have an independent variable, and here are 2 different dependent variables on this variable z. So this is saying that you start with a value z, which is -2. You plug that in to this expression, you get 4 plus 4 plus 1, that gives you 9. And all of these values are determined by what z is. Okay, so let's turn these off for a second. So I'm turning off those 2 functions. And let's now take a look at what parametric functions do. So we were saying above, x is the independent variable and y is the dependent variable. But in parametric functions, things work differently. There's a new independent variable t, and both x and y are dependent on what t is. So x is a function of t, and y is a function of t like this. You'll notice up here, these are the same 2 functions that we had up here. Before we were thinking of this independent variable as x, but now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think of this independent variable as t, this z, think it as t, and so let's actually do that. I'm going to call this t, and I'm going to call this t squared minus 2t plus 1, and then also t squared plus -t squared plus 2. And then for different values of t, I think, oh, we've lost what those values of t are. Oh, because it has a slider. I'll put them back in a second. For different values of t, we're calculating what the x function is and what the y function is. So I'm going to click this play button and take a look at what happens when t changes. You should see this little dot here. It's following a path, and it's saying if t starts at -2, then we're all the way over here. But as t increases and goes to +3, it moves all the way over here. So I'm going to delete this cell, and I'm going to connect these dots. Oh, t here. T is -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. We saw that those were those points that were connected. And if I now put a line in here, then we get this. These points end up being connected, but actually I don't want this. I don't want specific values of t. I want all values of t. So I went and I changed this back to a z squared minus 2z, and then minus z squared plus 2. So what we're seeing is we have these now are the x values, and these are the y values, and this gives us this curve right here. And I don't know about you, but this is a new type of shape that we really haven't seen before. This is a parabola, but it's kind of diagonal. It doesn't go up or down or to the right or to the left. It goes kind of diagonal on here, which is really making a point that parametric functions give us new types of curves that we haven't seen before. All right, so how do we create a parametric function? Desmos, so if you want to do this in Desmos, always use the letter T. You have to use the letter T to say you want that you're trying to display a parametric function. There's a couple of different ways to do it, but let's talk about the cleanest way. The cleanest way is to define each part of the function, the x coordinate and the y coordinate separately, and then assemble them together. So we're going to define f of t to be the function for the x coordinate. And again, this is a function of time. This is like you plug in different values of time and you get a different x coordinate. You plug in a value of time, you get a different y coordinate. And then if you take this pair, that gives us this curve as t goes from -2 to 3. So let's note a couple of things. You'll notice that these ones are off. So this purple function, this is the x coordinate, and it's we didn't actually put it on because we don't want just the x coordinate, we don't want just the y coordinate, we want this parametric function which has two different functions in it. And just like in polar functions, you need to specify this domain for t going from -2 to 3. Let's zoom out a little bit, and you'll notice that this parabola is not unbounded. Or in other words, it is bounded. It doesn't go off to infinity because it starts here at t is equal to -2 and goes up to here where t is equal to 3. So I like just keeping everything aside. You've got your f function, you've got your g function, and you've got your f of t, g of t, which is the parametric function. If you'll remember back to polar coordinates, we actually started off with what the polar function is, and then from there we defined our x coordinate and we defined our y coordinate in this same way. Now, if you prefer just to type everything into one line, you can. You can just take your x coordinate function here and your y coordinate function here, and that's fine. So if you like that, go right ahead. And let's play around a little bit. I've got a new function. This is the function we're starting with. I'm going to call it f1 and g1 to be different from f and g up here. And we've got some parameters, and you can play around with these parameters to take your diagonal parabola and make it diagonal in different directions. So see if you can move it so that the parabola lines up with the dotted parabola here. Give it a try, and one hint is that all of the numbers that you have here will end up being integers when they all line up. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So we've introduced parametric functions. Let's give some examples of parametric functions. This one is less exciting because we've seen it before, but if you wanted to make a parametric function that's a circle, you can do that. You're walking around the circle where the x coordinate is cosine of t and the y coordinate is sine of t. And then you have to have t going from 0 to 2 pi, just like we might expect for a circle. Okay, let's turn that one off. Actually, let's keep it back on because here's a little treat. So if you look at this is this function f1 g1, and I'm going to put a point on here, and you'll notice here that this was f1 of little t, and here I'm writing f1 of big T. And the reason I want to do that is because little t, that's telling us it's a parametric function, it's a parameter. Capital T here is going to is now just a variable, and if we push play, we can watch the point go around the circle. And you can use this same construction if you wanted to go along any parametric curve. you just put a new variable in here, and then you have a slider that goes from 0 up to 2 pi, or 0, whatever that domain is of your parametric equation, and you can watch the point go along. But you can also use this technique to put lots of points on the circle. So you'll see here, I started off with f1 of t, g1 of t, and then I let t be a slider. But here, I'm having f1 of t1 and g1 of t1, so this is a new thing, but I'm going to define t1 to be a set of points. So for different values of t, and in this case, it's the angle, for different angles, I would like a point at every one of those values. So there you go. If we zoom in here, we now have the circle, and we have equally spaced points in time around this circle. So if you have a curve and you'd like points to go along the curve, so as long as it's a parametric curve, then you can do that. Okay, so let's go on to the next part. So we've seen circles. So maybe we want to know what another type of parametric curve is. So you'll see up here we had cosine of t, sine of t. But what happens if we do cosine of 3t and sine of 4t? What does that look like? You get this kind of shape. This kind of shape is called a Lissajous curve. And what's happening is that in a circle, as cosine of t goes from 0 to 2 pi, it starts out at 1, goes to -1, and goes back to 1 exactly one time. g1 of t, that's sine of t, that's the y value, it starts out at 0, it goes up to 1, down to -1, and comes back to 0. It does that exactly one time. But if we change this to do cosine of 3t, what that's doing is it's moving in the x direction 3 times in 2 pi, and it's moving in the y direction 4 times in 2 pi. And so that gives us this curve that bounces back and forth between the -1 and 1 in the x direction and between -1 and 1 in the y direction. But here this was 3 and 4. What if it's not 3 and 4? What if we wanted a different number? Well, we can do that. I've put in some variables with sliders in here. I'm going to turn off these other ones so that we can see it better. So I'm going to turn this on, and now you should play around with this and change the value of m and change the value of n, and you can see a whole family of different Lissajous curves. So maybe there's one that you like the best. All right, last, let's look at roulette curves. So there's actually a whole bunch of different families of roulette curves, and you should go and visit the webpage to go take a look at them. One of these is called a deltoid curve, and you can see in here it's got quite the equation, but it's got a mixtures of cosines and sines. And let's turn this on and take a look at it. Oh, I think we're going to have to zoom out. Let's zoom out. Wow, okay, so this is this kind of star type shape. And as we change A and as we change B, we're getting different shapes. Basically, a lot of these roulette curves are things you could make with a spirograph. Okay, and you can see here that this wasn't complete, so maybe you need to increase the domain to make it fully complete. There we go, I added it to 60 pi, but maybe you actually need more than 60 in some cases, like here. You didn't get all the way around. If I made it maybe 100 pi, it does go all the way around. So you may have to play with the domain to make this work, but in the end, you get these really beautiful shapes. All right, this last setup is asking you to explore. So every parametric function is made up of an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. What happens if you make different decisions about what they should look like? What happens if you make the first one x cubed and the second one sine, oops, not x, it's t, remember use t, x at t cubed and sine of t, and we make this go up to 10, 100. If we zoom out, does that do anything? Well, that's kind of sad. Okay, maybe we have to modify this a little bit. T cubed minus 100t. Is that doing anything interesting? I think we should just play around and see what happens. Sine of 3t, what if I make this t squared, just t? Oh, look at this. If I take it t and sine of 3t, well, that looks like sine of 3t, but if I make this t squared, then I get an interesting shape like this, and maybe I need to make the t value go negative as well. Oh wow, look at this. So I've taken t, and maybe if I go from negative 10 to 10, then I get this shape that's kind of like a ribbon. So explore, create different parametric equations with some different functions, and see if you can make something cool. All right, that's it for here. See you next time.